Red Bull Racing Team might not win a race for the third weekend in a row, which would be their longest losing streak. After Mercedes matched Ferrari's 2022 record by winning 2 races back-to-back in Austria and Silverstone, it looks like the Red Bull team isn't sure about how good their car is anymore. Now, we're seeing big improvements from teams like McLaren and Mercedes, plus Ferrari promising to fix the main problems they created when they made changes in Spain. This means Red Bull could be in big trouble before the Hungary race, and if that happens, where does that leave them for the rest of the racing season? It's safe to say that exciting, close racing in Formula One is back. While Red Bull dominated the first 5 races so much that those wins could be really important for who wins both championships at the end, it's now clear that Red Bull is in trouble and their RB20 car isn't working as well as the team hoped it would, even though the team said they were bringing upgrades for races like Spain and Silverstone. They admitted that only small changes were made and the big package of improvements would come to Hungary. This is where we'll see if they can fix the problem with the car being unstable and the trouble it has with the bumpy parts and curbs on the track. Helmut Marko was the first person to talk about how important these upgrades are, and when he explained more about it, the experienced Austrian man said the most important thing for us is that everything has to be perfect for us to win. There can't be even the smallest mistake. In Silverstone, we were too slow on the medium tires, but thank God there will be an upgrade in Budapest, and we hope this will help us move forward again. One thing is for sure, the upgrade must work, because we're currently behind McLaren in speed, and if you look at Silverstone, we're also behind Mercedes. It's really important to get the tires working at the right temperature, but the Red Bull still isn't the fastest car right now, and we have to fix that with the update. This is definitely something to worry about because the RB20 hasn't had to deal with this much pressure in a long time. Or to say it better, the team didn't really feel any pressure to bring upgrades to their car because they've been so good for the past couple of years. For example, we've seen that Verstappen had the comfort to make an extra pit stop in the last laps of the race just so he could earn that extra point. Now, the Dutch driver has been completely beaten on the medium tires at Silverstone and also in the intermediate conditions, with other drivers cutting down 6 seconds of his lead in less than 3 to 4 laps. But the worrying sign can be traced back to Adrian Newey leaving the team, and while most of it has been about the internal power fights at Red Bull, the British mastermind has openly said he's worried about certain directions the team went in without his approval. The cooling system is one of these areas, and before he announced he was leaving Red Bull, Newey said he isn't happy at all with the direction they're going in. When talking about the situation, Adrian said that these parts will be changed either later this year or for the next one, considering they have huge importance and can't be changed to a different direction just like that. However, Hungary is a track that has a slow-speed nature, and here we should never forget Ferrari's downforce advantage compared to the rest of the teams. Even though they're bringing a problematic flaw to the race, it seems like the SF24 is confident that the lack of long fast corners will help their car in a more successful way, and they will be able to fight for race wins, bringing new life to the fight in both championships. This would be a huge problem for Red Bull, because as we've seen in Silverstone, it is only Max who scores the points. Even though it was partly because of a ruined strategy for Perez, it's still the Dutch driver who decides where Red Bull ends up in the race. If a bad race happens to him, which was looking like a realistic possibility if the rain didn't affect the race at all, then they don't have a second driver to put their hopes on, unlike any other team out of the top 4 out there. This is something that Christian Horner has talked about, and when discussing the biggest challenge for Red Bull in Hungary, the British team boss went on to say, "It is going to be interesting to see how we perform there. It could be hot. I think it will be the usual people who are quick at the moment. It is going to be an interesting venue, and I'm sure it will be very, very close." Once again, when you're at the sharp end, it's all about small improvements. Mercedes were quick in Silverstone, they got pole position and filled the front row, and they did a good race with Lewis. If we look back a little bit here, even though it was Verstappen who won the last 2 Hungarian Grand Prix races, it was Mercedes the team that got pole positions and podiums in 2022 and 2023, with small advantages over the rest of the grid. Either way, with the race speed that McLaren and Mercedes have shown in Silverstone, Red Bull are definitely in trouble here. The one thing that could help them is the temperature of the track, because although the tire wear has increased a lot compared to the RB19, it still looks better compared to some of the teams in the last couple of races like Ferrari and Mercedes. With McLaren, however, it looks like the Austrian team will have a serious problem, especially in the ending stages of the race, where the Mick L38 does look like proper machinery when it is lighter and the tires are at the best working temperature. This is what gave Norris a proper chance at another win in his career at Imola in Austria, and if it wasn't for the messed up tactics in Silverstone, he would have stood on the highest step of the podium too. Good news for Red Bull is that they rarely mess up with their strategy, which is why Verstappen was able to extend his lead over Norris in the Drivers' Championship despite having one of the worst races in his career after last year's Singapore showing. On pure racing speed alone, the Dutch driver also expects a lot of competition, and while he doesn't agree with the fact that Red Bull cannot find more improvements from the car, it's clear that the team has reached a certain ceiling that has been made worse by the disagreement Newey has with the current cooling version of the car. When talking about his own expectations in Hungary, Verstappen went on to say Hungary is an interesting track, and we're looking forward to racing there this week. The circuit is very narrow and twisty, and has a very technical second sector. It will also be quite a bit warmer this week too. Silverstone was a tricky race for us. Although we made the right calls, we still have a lot to work on and improve on going into the second half of the season. There is no doubt that Verstappen would have to be at 120% of his focus in Hungary if he wants to win the race, because the competition behind him is tough, and with Mercedes also bringing an upgrade package to Hungary and Spa, the Silver Arrows have joined the top three all of a sudden, and could be a very interesting mix before the second half of the season, which has 8 races. Either way, Red Bull has already started to look at how the other rivals are gaining an advantage over them, which is never a good thing, even though it happens all the time in this sport. In this particular case, it's the brake duct trick that McLaren has reportedly used in some of the previous races. While Red Bull complained about it, it doesn't really seem like a real addition of performance. With McLaren closing the holes of the brake ducts during Saturday and Sunday's events that are legal to be opened during Friday's practice sessions, it still seemed like they're one of, if not the fastest car on the grid. So this request to the FIA might not be the one that the Austrian team hoped for to slow down their rivals that are marching with great speed towards knocking them down from the top spot. With all this in mind, do you think that Red Bull will really struggle in Hungary, given the fact that Mercedes is having problems performing on tracks that have a bit of a hotter surface? Let us know in the comments below.